Hello, this is Patric Stillman. Welcome to Beyond Gallery Walls. We hope that this podcast will give you greater thought to your creative process and to better understanding to collect artwork. So today we're going to explore authenticity versus originality. And this podcast is a co-produced production by Patric Stillman, myself, of the Studio Door, and artist Redin Winter.
I started painting as a hobby into 1997 as a hobbyist, but I became a professional artist in 2018. I have a background in arts history, theory, women's studies, critical race studies, and have a PhD in that.
Fantastic. I'm Patric Stillman, and I own the Studio Door Art Gallery. The gallery has been around for almost 12 years, and I started my own artistic path when I was quite young, but I didn't really focus on being a serious artist until I was 40. So the past 20 years, I have been creating my own body of work alongside running the gallery. So Beyond Gallery Walls, topic this month is going to be authenticity versus originality. So why don't we just take a moment and mindfully slow down and have a discussion here. Redin, why don't you tell us a little bit about your personal experiences with authenticity, originality, and even imitation and performance culture?
Yeah, so I think that probably a lot of artists listening to this are going to have a similar situation when they're thinking about these terms. You come out when you really decide you're going to be a professional artist. You come out and you do. I would hope you want to be an original artist, have an original idea. But sometimes when we're going on this journey as being an artist, we can fall quickly into a bit of space that doesn't allow for us to work in the manner that would help you to either become original with an original thought, which may be very hard for many, and we sort of lose track of ourselves. And so I've been on this journey for a while. I've had my moments where I fell into the trap of trying to make my art look like somebody else's, or I've fallen into the trap of rethinking my whole body of work and what I create because that won't be commercial enough. It won't have the buyers lined up for it. My work tends to lean a little bit on the darker side of things because I truly am about human experience, which is light and dark and everything in between. That's been my sort of background in my journey of, really trying to intentionally stay out of the trappings of a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about today in this podcast. What's up with Patric?
I find that since we're both working in a very public setting, that it can be very challenging to have the time to focus and really think about what it is you're creating and not be distracted by people coming and going. But I think art takes time, and that it's really important that we find a little bit of time for us to be quiet or have silence or feel centered in order to get that work out. And I think because of my work here in the studio, I can be very easily distracted in those time constraints and fall into a pattern of trying to just get something done as opposed to allowing those distractions to fall away and just focus on my art. And so it's a constant struggle, but I'm really happy that I can be aware of that. And so hopefully I can correct course as I'm working.
But maybe it might be helpful for us to sort of think about the terms then that we're thinking about in terms of originality and authenticity, because I think that's going to help us really dive into the struggles of what all artists are going through, I think, at this time period in our lives.
I agree. I think that at first glance, I thought, oh, authenticity and originality, aren't they just synonyms? But they're not. I think that originality is about doing something first, doing something that hasn't been done before, or at least approaching it in a way maybe you haven't done it before. And authenticity is really about, being true to your own voice. What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. And similarly, as we started this, I was thinking, okay, well, yeah, authenticity and originality go hand in hand. We as artists, you hear terms all the time like there's no way to be original at this point. Everything's been done, right? And to some effect, it's true, but in a lot of times it's not, because I've caught myself saying that, and then I say, oh, wait, what is that? What's that new thing that I'm just discovered from an artist, right? They're doing something maybe different with a technique that I was unaware of, or using a medium in a different kind of way, or just looking at the world in a different kind of way, which makes it exciting, original, and new. I said that the issue, though, for me is that originality sometimes can be like the luck of the draw. You could have this amazing original thought, and there could be 6 other people at the very same time having that same original thought, and then it's like they release it first, and so now it's like, are you an artist that's just copying this person? I don't even know who that person is. I wasn't copying them; it just came up. So I think the striving of artists for originality comes with a lot of maybe fear, and then they don't really work on what you sort of do as an artist, which is you work on the medium itself, you work on your own self in the process of making the work. Whereas authenticity, what I think is so beautiful about authenticity is it's accessible to anyone. You don't have to just have this amazing original thought that happens to come to you in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, or when you're standing in front of a canvas, or when you've got the clay in front of you. Every artist can work and strive towards authenticity. And for me, it's very similar to how you described it. It's being true to oneself. It's understanding why you're an artist. It's a calling to be an artist. It's not easy to be an artist. It's a calling. And so why have you been called to the table? And understanding that you have your own voice, and you have your own way of, or viewpoint of the world, and that's what you need to sort of help to find your authentic visual voice, or musical voice if you're a musician, whatever it is, in the art. That's how you find that visual voice.
I really like what you said there, especially about authenticity. When I got serious about my own art, the first major project I did was to create a tarot deck, the Brotherhood Tarot. And as a gay man, I wanted something that spoke to my life. And I thought there were universal things that I could say by creating a deck for men. And so the tarot is not an original idea, but the way I approached it was I was bringing something of myself to it, trying to use the definitions within the cards and bring them into gay history, mythology, and that unique perspective of gay male life. And so that's sort of a real world example of how I was trying to deal with authenticity and originality in one project. And I think that opened myself up to lots of really interesting conversations. People responded very positively to it, and at the same time, tarot purists really questioned the fact if this deck could really be used as tarot because I sort of removed the male and female, the duality in the deck. So it was exciting to be able to have these new discussions around something I created.
I think that's a perfect example of what we're talking about when we're talking about authenticity, right? It doesn't make the thing that you created less, right? Just because many other people have created tarot decks, doesn't make the work less. It actually makes it more because it's coming from your viewpoint, what you see as needing to be filled, right? As an artist, that's what we're doing. We're looking at what's out there, where are the gaps and what's needing to be filled, and how can I elevate the way people see the world, or elevate the stories that we tell, or elevate the art form that I'm working in itself, right? That's what we're doing. And, and by elevation, I don't mean technically getting better. I mean elevating it in a way where we're expanding the representation, we're expanding the stories that are being told, we're expanding the narratives that exist so that those that are not artists can find themselves in the work that is being produced and made.
Maybe this is a conversation for another time, but it kind of goes into, why are you creating art? Why are you an artist? Or what is an artist? I come across a lot of people creating works, and of course they're all at different levels. And as an artist is sort of starting along that journey, I think it's very understandable that they would look towards historic works or past works or works by their contemporaries and try to mirror that as they try to build their skills, or just catch their eye about what it is that they like, what they're seeing, and what they want to bring into their own work. But there is a time when things fall apart, that they're not original or they're not authentic. And one story I know that you and I have talked about in the past is I had a woman of a certain age who came into the gallery, who wanted to show me her work and was very excited because she felt that her contemporary voice was better than Basquiat's. And then she continued to show me works that looked very much like Basquiat's.
Let me guess, were there a bunch of three-pointed crowns?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was very outsider art from a very insider person. And it just really hurt to be able to look at that and not say something inappropriate. I think that, Basquiat works on a certain level because he was original and his work was speaking about his authenticity, his life experiences, his worldview. And I don't think that can be easily transferred to somebody living a very comfortable middle-class life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, again, it goes back to what I was talking about before, where we're trying to find what's missing. Basquiat's whole thing was, the art world at that time, he was unable to make works in a language that felt right for him based off of what was out there and what was expected of artists. And what he did was create symbols that created a visual language. And so that visual language was very specific to him, his experiences as a Black man in New York, whatever actual specific detailed experiences. And so I think it's fantastic that Basquiat has become part of the things that a lot of times in art schools and things like that we call masters. Right? But I think it's fantastic that he has found his way in that. And there are all of these people who are not of his background or of his race or of his age studying his work, because I think that's important. And when you're in art school, right, that's what we're taught. well, learn this technique, or let's look behind, like, why did they do this thing, or why did we do that? And we take these tools and we sort of combine them, and we create a knowledge culture, right? And we can start to discover, why do I like this? Why does Basquiat's work speak to me if I'm white? You know, hello, here I am, I'm white, I'm 49, I'm this and that. His work moves me. But does it move me because I somehow am connected to the visual language that he is creating? Or am I moved by his work because he was able to find a visual language that was original and new and completely authentic for him and his voice? And I think that's where the struggle happens. Because if you are somebody that looks like me and you're all of a sudden walking in and saying, look at my beautiful new works that are better than Basquiat, which shouldn't be ever said. But, you know, if it's his style. But, you know, walking in like, there's a disconnection there. And it doesn't take somebody who's in art school or who's even studied Basquiat, you just know a little bit about the background, you're going to find that disconnect, and it doesn't feel true. It doesn't mean you couldn't find a graffiti style or your own symbols that meant something to you as whatever your experiences are, but to sort of truncate his symbols into your art or mass commercialized merchandise, which is the 3-point crown is one of the, you know, we can find on sweatshirts and t-shirts and this. You know, it loses the sense, and then as an artist, I can't connect to you as another artist because I'm wondering why you're doing that versus using that as an idea and then finding your own language to do a similar tactic to it. Does that make sense, Patrick?
Yeah, I think that authenticity brings connection.
Yeah.
I think that art in any form can be received by anyone if there is this authentic voice behind it. So, for example, if I'm telling a personal story from my life about, let's say, it coming out, and as long as I'm talking about my experience and what I'd like others who maybe are going through something similar, you don't have to be a gay man or part of the LGBTQ community to understand my message or to be able to see the universal truths in it. And I think authentic work will always bring that forward and speak to people. And that's why we find ourselves, you know, mesmerized by Basquiat, Haring, Warhol, you know, the list goes on, right? But the key is, as an artist, how do I find those things that are my authentic voice without copying, without trying to take elements that another artist has already developed. And I think there's a little pitfall because there's this pressure of, let's get moving, let's get moving, let's get moving.
Feed the machine.
Exactly. You know how hard it is with the pressures of social media and competition locally and nationally and all of that, right?
Absolutely. You know, social media really put everything on a whole other level in terms of just redefining the pacing of an artist, right? So even when we first started posting things on social media, it was images. So you could sit with an image, and then it became video, and then it was like, okay, so we started putting videos out there, but then you immediately started being fed how the videos should look, what the videos are that are successful as an artist that will get views. We could bring it 15 seconds and 30 hashtags. Now we're 7 seconds and 5 hashtags. Now we're 3 seconds. Like, you better have something going on with the first 3 seconds. And I think that all of this alongside, and this isn't just a social media issue, alongside calls to art, alongside wanting to, just personally wanting to move into a space where your work will financially keep you safe and secure so you don't have to have a whole bunch of extra jobs, right? That mindset, it's created this driving force that is sort of an antithesis of what you sort of need to find your authentic voice, and that's like time and space to do it. But I think social media truly, as we've all seen, is changing the parameters. It's changing the parameters of the art world. It's changing the parameters of artists. And so I bought into it. I'm sure many others have, where, oh, I'm supposed to post something, and so you're posting things that maybe you don't want the world's eyes to see yet. We're becoming like almost like overexposed. It used to be you went to a gallery showing, and that was the art you saw from that artist. You didn't see their entire body of work all the time, because that's what social media has become if you don't delete, right? You just keep scrolling and you can see everything that this person ever made. And so there is like an overexposure idea, but Patric, getting back into like that pace problem, how it's actually affecting the work of artists, whether you're somebody who creates your art in a quick manner or creates your work actually like technically in a slower manner, it's still making you feel like you need to jump on the train. You need to get something out. I just need to churn and churn. And my first thought is, are they really just trying to turn us all into factories, right? Like we're just becoming these factories. Like, I need more art. And maybe those galleries that you work with that say that too. Like, I need some new art. And you're like, it's not ready yet. And so we're in this constant sort of turnover of needing to produce new stuff without giving sort of time and reflection on like, okay, well, how did that process work for me? Or what did I actually really like and enjoy about making that art? What didn't I? What are some things that I could tweak? And, you know, I'm going through this right now, or, you know, this is happening in the world, or I'm about political, you know, there's no time to sit with these things because we gotta post, and we've gotta make sure that we're getting the stuff out there as fast as we possibly can, because there's others who are churning the things out. And we're seeing that they've got the big numbers and they've got success. And now they're even being the ones that the mid-tier galleries are reaching out to because they have a following, right? So it's like, oh, well, how many followers do you have? That was not a question they asked 5 years ago. As a gallery owner, Patric, not just as the artist, but also like as a gallery owner, do you find that you're seeing the art that's even being submitted to the studio door as sort of changing due to this like pacing problem that's happening right now?
Absolutely. I'd say that there's more and more art being submitted that's not ready for galleries. It's not ready for public consumption. I think part of that process is that just because you put some paint on a canvas doesn't make you an artist, doesn't make you already at the level that you can become an instant influencer. It's like, even though there may be these pressures to suggest that you are this thing, I think it's great that you want to do something. I think it's great that you put the time in, and even the fake it till you make it sort of bolster to your ego is okay if it's pushing you towards becoming an artist. But I think that there is this pressure to just like, okay, I can throw paint on a canvas and that makes me an artist, and now I'm an influencer. And you know what? I can share with you my techniques that got me 1 million influencer friends, and how I can like blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden it becomes all about this sort of commercial money making and honestly BS art. You know, if I see one more person do the reveal.
I did the reveal too. We all fell into it. I did it a couple of times myself. But yes, go ahead. I'm on board with what you're saying, but I did it too. So if you did it out there, you're all in this together. But yeah, go ahead, Patric.
That is the pressure, I think, of performing. But the thing is that art takes time. You want to become a better painter, you need to probably spend more time drawing every day, a little bit of time, and become a better illustrator, and you'll become a better painter. I think understanding how you can put down on paper or canvas what you actually see, the eye to hand to expression, is something that develops slowly. And you just have to sort of put on blinders and say, okay, maybe I do want to be an influencer, maybe I want all those things, but make sure that the art comes first. The other stuff will follow. This is a long game. It's not instant gratification. Wouldn't you say it's a long game?
Absolutely. It's a very long game. I mean, I when you said becoming, you said when you reached the becoming of an artist, and I was like, when will that be? Because I think that, I'm sure I think of myself as an artist now. It took me a long time to think of myself in that manner. But I do feel like the minute we think we've become an artist, it's game over. Like we should always be, and this is, just my opinion, we should always be in that mode of becoming, right? Because that's what keeps the authenticity alive, because we're staying present with who we are now. We're not trying to be what we were 20 years ago or what was needed 20 years ago. There's a different need, there's different gaps, there's things that are missing. I definitely am expressing myself with paint and canvas in a definitely different way than I did back when I first started painting, as well as even, when I first put myself out there and said, I'm going to be a professional artist and I'm going to work every day. I'm going to paint every day, so I can be a sporadic thing anymore. I'm going to paint every day, just a little bit at a time. Mind you, I did not post anything. I didn't put anything out there for about a year. I spent about a year just navigating what it was I wanted to do, but shifts happen, right? And they should as an artist. And so, I do think that getting back into that, like slowing down, having some reflection. I love the idea that you mentioned with the figures and knowing how to draw. As an abstract artist, I still went and took drawing classes. And because I was like, I need this in my toolbox, right? So it wasn't that I was necessarily putting a face on canvas. I mean, sometimes it happens, but it was something that I needed to understand as part of the journey of being an artist.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I know with my own personal practice, I'm mainly a figurative painter. And part of trying to incorporate my authenticity into the work, I am not concerned about photorealism. I am trying to create something that evokes memory and time and is a looser figurative work. But being in a public setting where people can walk right into my studio out of the gallery, I often had people who had the nerve to tell me, oh, if you just did this, it would look more realistic. And I really, really did not like that. I mean, it hurt my feelings in a way because it was obvious that they weren't even taking the time to look what I was creating. They were looking to critique. And so I finally got rid of that conversation by creating a work that was photorealistic. I sort of got my inspiration from Picasso, his blue period, because we know his unique works in his later life, and how he brought these strange and surreal kind of imagery into all of his work. Well, there was a period in time when he was in the blue period, and the work was very realistic, though it was all in blues. And I thought, when I first experienced that of his work, I was like so impressed because I didn't realize he had that in his tool belt. And it made me see him as a different artist. And so I borrowed that idea for my own studio, created that piece, and all those conversations went away. And that allowed me now to be able to then have a whole different kind of conversation with people. And that made my work feel much more present and in the moment.
It's interesting that it was like you almost had to sort of validate your wanting to not do more realistic stuff by doing something realistic, just to say like, listen, I could do it if I wanted to.
Right.
But so here it is, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing this. And it's very interesting because that's making me think of an example with my work. So as I've mentioned, my stuff tends, sometimes to have a little bit of a darker palette. And I'm also in a public space with my studio, so people can come in and out if they so desire while I'm working. And I've had people go, this stuff is so gorgeous, but if you just did it in pink, or if you just did it in yellow, or if you just did it, and I'm going, again, that's going back to that sort of like the factory. It's like, well, that's not working for what I'm doing here. Color is very important to me in terms of the emotions that it brings about, or its symbology, or symbolism. But again, that's just sort of, that is part of being an artist, is having a lot of people with a lot of opinions on what you should be doing. And again, it's easy to fall into the pitfall. Social media and all of the art marketing gurus that have now taken over my feed are telling us all, what kind of art we're supposed to be making, how we're supposed to be sharing our work, what we're supposed to be doing, when we're supposed to be doing it. You have patrons who may or may not give you opinions and advice on non-commissioned work, like, hey, give me all the opinions you want to commission work, but non-commissioned work. You'll have random strangers tell you, people on, the outside world, galleries. You're getting a lot of feedback. And so that's why I think it's really important as an artist, especially if you're younger and just starting out, but even, wherever you are in your life, to make sure that you're spending the time to sort of reconnect to your core. What is it about you that makes you have to create art? What is it about the art that you create that you feel that needs to be created? Because that's going to help you quiet all of that. Some of it is good. It's good to get feedback from galleries. It's good to get feedback from people you trust. But sometimes people give you feedback and it's in quite opposition to what you're doing, and you start to listen, and then your work starts to change a bit. And then it takes a lot more to sort of get you back on that track of, the end of this long journey being like, yes, I was an artist. I did the work. I did the thing. I created so much stuff. I connected with other people. I connected with myself.
I think it's so true that every one of us needs to decide, what kind of artist are we? What's important to us? Some people want to sell their artwork. Some people, that's not their interest. They just want to create work, to express themselves, to share their opinions, ideas, messages. Some people just want the artist lifestyle, and they want the ego portion. We all come to our studio practice really with something very personal that drives us. And I think it's important that we understand what that is. because the reality is that universities are going to tell you, this is what art is today. They might say, oh, painting, drawing, all of that is a dead art. And then you get to a gallery setting and they're going to say you should have 30, 40 pieces and they should all be identical or of a certain type of hand, so that we know that when we're selling, that we can tell our patrons that you have more of the same type of work available. And then there's many other paths and voices that you're going to hear. There are people who are going to yell "sell out." Are people who are going to say, only good art is, underground art or outsider art or whatever. You're going to hear a lot of opinions. And even if you are exposing your art to the public, you're going to have a lot of art lovers and patrons come in with their own preconceived notions of what's good and what's bad. I'm sure you've come across people who either appreciate or don't appreciate abstract art.
Yeah, actually, I was one of them. I actually despised abstract art for the longest time. When I actually was a hobbyist, I was more your sort of landscape, figurative, not realistic, maybe a little bit more surrealist in sort of what I was working on. But I had something happen to me where I saw a painting that was an abstract painting, and it was in a gallery in New York, and it affected me in a way that no other painting had affected me, no other piece of art. And when I had that happen to me, I said, it was this aha moment of that is what I want to do as an artist. I want to create things that can connect to somebody so deep down, in their soul, like the person on the other with the eyes is going, oh my goodness, this painting sees me. And so I started to go towards abstraction, and I didn't really have a background in it. And so I did take some classes, and I did sort of learn what the tools of the trade were when it comes to abstract art. And then I immediately needed to take those tools and translate them away from some of the things that I had been taught to find my own visual language within abstraction. And even now, I'll have people come into my studio and go, I don't know if abstract's really the right word, because it's like I'm looking at worlds on canvas, right? That's what I get a lot. It's like I'm looking at a world that's been created on it, but just in an abstract form.
I'm glad that you brought up tools, because I think tools evolve, and tools also play a role in finding our authentic voice, or play a role in taking us away from our authentic voice.
Absolutely. Diminish that voice because we're thinking we need to use the tools in a very specific way.
Especially today, the big conversation is AI. Love it, hate it, AI.
The elephant in the room.
I know people feel very passionately about it, but I believe that what the future holds for AI is always its connection to the human experience, meaning that it's not going to survive as a tool for quick commerce, like it's being used so much right now. But I do think that it could be a valid tool for an individual artist to utilize to help them develop their own work.
Look, AI is here, and each artist is going to need to make a decision on sort of how they want or do not want to involve themselves with AI. I personally am not using AI in terms of making art or anything like that. However, it's reminding me a lot of when we look through the history of art forms. Every single time something new comes out and it's on the horizon, the question becomes, will we survive this? So with the photograph, when photography first started, there was a lot of discussion and dialogue about that's going to be the death of painting. And what happened? Photography did not take over painting, as well as it became a tool that is on every single one of our cell phones. And yet it has also created the dynamics of there are amazing artist photographers. So there's different levels of that. The same thing happened with film, with theater. Theater still existed when after film first came out, but there was this constant fear that this was going to somehow create the death of whatever the art forms were that came before. And I think AI is going to sort of find its way in that shape. I think it's going to, at least for a while, it's going to be a tool that many people use in different ways and facets, and it becomes sort of a generalized public use. But there's going to be artists that are authentic that can somehow use this as just another tool, like a pen or a brush or paint, and they're going to create amazing things out of that. And that's right. But the pitfall is when we don't use it just as a tool, and when it becomes replacement, right? That is something, you know, I fear AI, and I want the artist's hands in the work. That's what I'm a collector too, and I'm driven into, you know, I can see that was made by a human, and they've got this, and this is what's going on. And so, you know, again, I think every artist and every art collector and every gallery and every, you know, the whole art world's going to have to decide how much we allow AI to sort of come in and replace, or it happens just like photography and film did and theater and all this stuff, that it becomes a tool that a lot of people have access to and use, and then there are going to be artists that emerge from that have original thought with it, that have authentic things to say with it, and those will become the masters of the AI world in terms of artwork.
Yeah, I do think that there will be, or there is already happening, a sort of backlash to AI where that human touch, that authenticity, that actual hand is becoming more valuable to many people. But as far as when I say a tool, I'm thinking more like camera obscura or grids that people lay out to get their image onto a canvas, or something along those lines. Even maybe using like Photoshop layouts to try to come up with a composition before the actual painting happens. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that artists use technology to create something that's not in the end result technology. And so
using it more as a tool, are you saying, versus like, I'm just going to prompt it and say, I would like a purple mouse sitting on top of a bathroom tile?
Right. I think there's a lot of lazy commerce kind of agitators online that are using it just like that. Okay, we want a cat. Now we're going to do it with a dog. Now we're going to do it with, you know, and they're going to mass produce stuff, you know, whether it's, I'm creating logos that I can sell on Amazon without actually having to do anything, and I'm making millions of dollars. I'm seeing a lot of that online right now, which is just, to me, ridiculous. It's a money grab, and it's most likely they're probably not grabbing that much money. They're just trying to get people to pay them to utilize the same ideas. It's just kind of a strange, scammy thing, which is separate from art. Art is definitely not going to be something that's simply prompt driven. AI, if AI is creating art, I just can't imagine what that's going to be.
Right. Yeah. And I'm definitely not a proponent or advocate for us turning to that sort of method, just because for me, when we're talking about authenticity, that is human experience is what is needed for me to connect to artists and to art, and to patrons, and to like that human connection is needed, the soul. And at least at this point, the AI doesn't seem to appear to have that yet. But I think it's really a question of trust. I keep going back to that because of the backlash. As well as I see a lot more people wanting to collect work that has a little bit more, if it's a 2D sort of painting, or, they want to like see more of the paint. They want to see more, they want to make sure it's real, because we're living in this sort of weird dichotomy of, is what I'm watching really real or not? Is this AI? I mean, we've all seen those videos, I'm sure, where you have to guess if the object is AI or not created, and I'm always wrong. So I think there's a trust issue. So I think that a lot of people are gravitating towards artworks that are created even more so by the human hand. They can see it, which is why I think it's so important for artists to get back into that authentic space. Why do you make art? Why do you make the art you do? And work on it. And you can still share it. You can still share the work and share the explorations on social media if you choose to really put that out there. But if you don't want to share it, then don't, just because other people are telling you to share it. It's okay to keep some things private. That's my thought.
I agree. I think that with all forms of tools and technology, if it's working towards bringing us as humans together, then there's really positive things that develop out of that, because art really is about connecting. When they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, to me that means that that imagery is bringing people together. Mm-hmm. They are understanding things. They are looking at the world differently. They are successfully communicating one into another. And I don't think that technology is there.
One of my most favorite things that ever happened to me is when somebody comes into my studio space and they can't afford my work, and that's okay, but they'll say, I've had people thank me for making the work that I make. I've had people go, wow, I've gone through some rough points in my life, and this is speaking to me. And it's that connection. To me, I'm like, well, that's the most successful I'll ever be. Thank you very much. I've done it. I'm connecting to people. I'm having other people see themselves through the emotional experience of what it is to be human. And so, yeah, when I see AI, even social media, and sort of what's considered connection now, I want to fight against it a bit still. I want to fight back and get back into being, back into like, go to the actual gallery and see the work. Don't just wait for the video to be presented out there. I'm sure you would appreciate that too.
I think that we should wrap things up with talking about summarizing or just mentioning how you feel an artist can find their authentic voice and how they can embrace originality.
Time and space, whatever that looks like to you, I think it's extremely important to find that authentic space. But for me, it's a word that I am reminding myself every day of, and that's intentionality. That is a word that I am using not only with how I'm creating my art, what I'm putting on the canvas in front of me, but also even how I'm sharing it, how I'm releasing the work to the art, is that I'm sort of in the mode and I haven't arrived. And, again, this is a journey. There's going to be ebbs and flows, and some days you're going to feel like you're really connecting to that authentic space and other days not. But if you just keep reminding yourselves again of that calling and the intentionality behind it, I think that the artist world and artists in it, if you want to buy into that and truly find your authentic voice, you will find it, but you can't rush it. And some people are going to get there sooner than you, and so you're going to get there sometimes sooner than others. But again, every artist's journey is different. And sometimes it just takes time and practice and doing the work, sitting down and actually working on things. Working on yourself too, doing some personal reflection. That for me is how I best find my authentic space. What about you, Patrick? What are some?
Yeah, 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration.
Oh, yeah.
You need to know who you are and why you're creating art. And then you need to take the time to explore, make messes, fail. And that's the only way you're going to find, the truth in your work is by doing and just going through that process. The more you fail, the more that you succeed. The more that you know what you don't want, the more you're headed in the right direction. So I think to find authentic voices, you need to just know yourself and take the time to do the work. Don't feel the pressures to share it. But don't be ashamed of it either. It's part of the process. And not every work is going to be a masterpiece. And some works you'll even give up on. But don't give up on the journey, because I think it's a long, long process and ever evolving.
So that reminds me of I think it's Samuel Beckett. Oh, if it's not Samuel Beckett, please don't. And well, you can call me out for it, but I think Samuel Beckett said, fail better. And I love that idea. And I love that idea of embracing your failures and just to keep working.
So before we go, I would like to tell our viewers, please maybe take a moment and in the comments, tell us, what are your pieces of advice on authenticity and originality? I really would like to hear that.
Any advice on how you find your authentic space, if you are there, or if you just want to comment on sort of maybe some struggles you're having, and then other people can sort of help out if you're open to getting advice from others.
And speaking of advice, we certainly would like some. Is this something that you found interesting? Would you like to hear more? Perhaps not only words to artists, but words to collectors. We're really interested in sharing our real life experiences with you. And I guess if you like this, then, do the whole thing of following, commenting, and let us know.
We're hoping that this can start many discussions with many different artists. And so if you like what you're hearing, we would love for you to follow us along on this journey as we move forward with this podcast and next exciting subject matter.
Thank you so much, Redin, for being here today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Patrick. Yes, it's always our conversations that get me fueling, so why not have it on, share them with the world.
Well, I can't wait for our next one. See you soon.
Bye.